So on today's episode, we've got David Mordecai. We're going to be covering shore fishing, boat fishing, big game fishing abroad. Check out our Facebook, check out the Instagram, and please remember, subscribe to the podcast. Ready? Episode 3, Tuna Gear podcast. I'm Andy. I've got my co-host Danny sat with me. Today, we have Dave Mordecai with us. Shore angler, boat angler, big game angler. It's all there. YouTube personality.
Not quite.
Clout fisherman.
Yeah.
We have the whole lot. Thank you for coming on, mate. I was bugging you last week when we were down fishing on Unleashed with Kieran. You sort of looked at me like I was mad to start with. But you've seen some of the pictures of what I've been doing down here. I've shared some of the videos and stuff. Giving you a couple of the Tuna Gear merch bags to wander around with while you're out there fishing, and I might finally manage to convince you to come on. Looking forward to this one.
Yep.
We've known each other 12 months, 18 months, something like that. Well, blimey, 2 years. Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah.
And I'd seen some of your stuff on YouTube before. You put stuff up there just for fun, don't you? You're not like...
I'm not a YouTuber. It's more for just sharing stuff and being able to, share my experiences that I do.
So, because it's super interesting stuff. Whether you're sat, what's your boat? Gadget?
Yeah.
What boat is Gadget?
It's a 675 Pilot House made by Quicksilver.
Perfect boat for fishing round here.
It's brilliant. I go off sort of 5 days at a time sometimes and end up either east or west. It all depends, really. Follow the weather. So tomorrow I'll be heading over to Weymouth for the Shambles Bank.
Because we've got a high pressure coming in, haven't we? It's looking all right out there.
We're on the back end of an EAP, so the tide's just starting to build, and I think that the turbot should start showing now.
You do love a turbot, don't you?
It's different type of fishing. It's not a very, very strenuous. It's more relaxing type of fishing. You're
not pumping a rod all the time, up, down, up, down.
You're not moving the boat, and on a nice drift, you can sit there for a good hour or two without having to move the boat, and you're constantly fishing over the banks. So it's a great day out. And normally, I'll do it in sort of the start of spring before everything else sort of takes over.
Are you always on a drift? You're never at anchor? You're permanently on a drift? Sometimes,
if we find a spot where the fish are on the back end of a bank, we can just slip an anchor. It's very shallow, so it's very easy to put down and lift if it's not working. But some of the bigger turbot that we've had are at anchor. But
what's your biggest?
I think it's about 8.5, 9. We didn't weigh it, but it was...
Did it go back or did you eat it?
I definitely ate it. It's a turbot is classed as like the king of the sea, in my eyes anyway. It's the best eating fish that you can get, and it's really quite rare. You won't see it in the supermarkets, and only certain fishmongers will have it.
Generally the upper end of the restaurants and things like that where you see it, don't you?
Exactly.
And it's not cheap. It is
exactly.
Not cheap.
I think the prices could be quite extortionate, even more than all of this bluefin tuna and so on, and it's a very, very delicate fish, and it's probably my favourite fish to eat.
So sorry. So for the listeners that may not know you, are you like chartering or is it privately? What?
Oh no, definitely private.
Yeah.
I do everything for myself.
Yeah. So it's you and your guys on your boat. Yeah. Yeah. Cool.
Most of the time, I'm fishing on my own.
Yeah.
Now and again, I'll take a friend out. Or I'll jump on another friend's boat.
Yeah. I mean, that's the social element to fishing. We've explained it before. Yeah. I think for me anyway, I love it. So that's cool.
Yeah.
What's your go-to setup then when you're turbot fishing?
A light rod. I use. It's quite funny actually. A couple of years ago, Sam from Sidewinder.
Shout out Sam. We got Sam coming on
Sam.
soon. Good lad.
I was just looking at spinning rods, and I was over at his place, and I picked up a rod, and it's got
Were you upstairs in his laid out tackle shop?
no downstairs. And
Right, okay,
we
just
just
in the warehouse.
chatting away with Tom and stuff, and Sam, and I picked up a rod, and I laughed because it had a sticker on it that says "Unbreakable." So 4 years ago, I set the target to try and break this rod, and all it is a white Namura Kanji. It's quite a cheap rod. It's nothing really special, but that rod has had a lot of fish on it, and it's the type of thing you want. If you're turbot fishing, you want something with a really soft tip. So you're talking of not the lighter end spinning rod. So you're looking at sort of 40 to 80 gram.
Oh, that light.
Yeah, and I'm dropping down with probably a 4 or a 6 ounce watch lead. And it's an art for turbot fishing. There's some guys that we'll all go out onto the banks together in different boats, and there's some guys that sort of nail it compared to me. They'll be sort of 10 fish up by the time I've had 2. But there's an art with the setup to stop the leads digging in and bouncing out. So you'll see your rod loading up and pinging back up, and you just don't want that.
So who taught you that? Was that self-taught? Is that something you picked up yourself, or were you shown this method by others? How did that come about?
So I got a close friend, Jason Gillespie. Hi, Jace. He's sort of been my wingman with everything like this. And it was one day a couple of years ago, I was fishing Chesil Beach overnight, and he texted saying he's on the way down to Weymouth. He's going out turbot fishing the next day, and this has got to be 2, 3 in the morning, and I'm like, okay, and he said, well, come out with me, and the swell on the beach on Chesil, if you know Chesil, when you've got like a 2-3 meter swell, the thing, it's pumping in, and I'm thinking, do I really want to go out on the boat? But anyway, I met him at 5 in the morning, and that was one of my first experiences with turbot fishing.
Yeah, cool.
Was that on a charter boat? Was he dragging his own boat up there to launch?
Showing his own boat to launch, and he's got a boat called Blue, which is it's not a strike liner. It's a pilot house, Orkney pilot house.
Right, okay.
And we've done lots of different sessions on his boat, and so on and so on.
Solid boat, that.
They're brilliant. We've been out onto the Celtic Deeps from Milford Haven on it, and so on. And Jace really is one of these anglers that doesn't say a lot, but his experience is vast.
Yeah.
So indirectly picking up bits off other people. So when you're fishing for turbot, the game is to keep everything pinned on the floor, and bait presentation is one of the keys, but we've recently been proved wrong with that you could just chuck a messy, scraggly bit of mackerel down, and if they're there, they'll take it.
We had this conversation when we were out on Crusader last year doing a bit of fishing. You very kindly invited me out. We went and did some ray fishing.
Yeah.
I had that clonker of a blonde ray, and then you backed it up with a... How big was that one?
I think it was about 33.
It was massive. Your arms were shaking as you were holding this thing up. Mine was about £18. I had it on a place rig, didn't I?
Yeah.
I've gone out like an absolute noddy. I haven't got any rigs. Whenever I go out fishing with Dave, I ponce all this stuff. Every single time. Can you tie me this, Dave? Have you got a lead for this, Dave? Dave, have you got any hooks? And I was like... I just pulled a place rig out my bag, and I've got the video of it. You shot the video, and I'm just slowly winding this thing up. And as I got it in the net, the trace exploded.
That's right, beads everywhere.
But literally, I'm like bouncing around. I've had this thing. I'm super stoked with it. And then he caught this thing that dwarfed it. Because Matey Boy had that taupe, didn't he? You got the two pictures.
So that's Grant from Hook Point. It was actually his sort of day out that he invited us along.
Grant Jones?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, we've spoke about Grant Jones.
Right, okay.
Trust guy.
Right, okay.
That's
Yeah.
So he invited us out. And
so you've already met him then? Great. So that's a...
Yeah.
He didn't invite me, he invited Dave, and Dave invited me. And I just turned up, I was like, hi everyone, I'm Andy. Like, I'm walking around, I've caught this rail, I'm just shaking everybody's hand. But that day we were out there, you were in a Gale on Unleashed the other day, you were showing me about how you cut your mackerel down, the end that you pop the hook in, and these guys that fish the Bristol Channel were just wrapping the biggest, stinkiest balls of bait up.
Yeah.
And you were explaining to me then, like, they're fishing the Bristol Channel, it's brown water. Over our side, we've got these lovely clear water.
Yeah.
And that bait presentation is like a real important thing to it.
Very much so. What you want to try and avoid is a bait that is spinning.
Yeah.
And normally, if anything's above the hook, that tends to put a bend in the bait as it's being pulled through the water. The top of the bait gets pulled down.
Do you mean another bit of bait above that? Or
So if you let's say you thread a bit of something on the hook, and as the water pressures against it, the top of the bait comes down, or a little flap comes down, and then it tends to do this.
and they just don't like it.
And around here, as you said, everything is about a visual presentation. And what I do now with turbot or ray fishing on the boat is, like I say, we'll fillet a bit of mackerel off, and you can either like use a whole bit of mackerel or whole side of the mackerel, or half of it, so you could take the belly. I've noticed a big difference between certain rays that will take the top half or the
So the white versus the stripes.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Really?
But now what I do?
Do you think that's a visual thing to them? Because they're with what they're hunting, or just gets them to react in a different way?
So the blondes we find will take the top half, and small eyes will take like a whiter the belly. I don't know whether that's right or wrong, but that's what I've found.
That's what you found from being out there.
And what I also do is I'll take off all of the flesh. So you've got a very thin layer of flesh on the skin. And then at the end where the sinew is at the tail, you'll just nick it through once. And that's all you need, because when it's in the water, the whole bit of bait is literally like a flag behind the hook. And then that comes back to the theory of when you think you've got a bite when you're on a drift, what you don't do is just wind in and try it. Definitely don't strike. What you do is you let line out, and you could count to 10 or however long you want to. Just let that fish have it.
Is that because they're just mouthing it down there, or they haven't quite hooked themselves yet?
These baits are fairly long, and although a big turbot, when it feeds, it'll open its mouth.
Well, vacuum feeders, aren't they?
Exactly that. And if you take the flesh off the bait, then you basically the flag or the skin is acting like a flag, and when it does vacuum it just goes in.
It's got a mouth like a snooker pocket, haven't they?
So there's a lot of fish that feed like that, and it's an ambush type tactic. Whereas a shark will come in and go where certain fish like big grouper will open their mouth and suck that in. So let line off and let that fish take it, and then all you do is engage your drag, and because you're drifting, the next thing you see is that rod tip just hoofs over.
I think that's a really good point about the difference in how fish feed and how you approach that technique. I've said often in freshwater about, say, a bass that is a vacuum feeder, opens its mouth, bucket goes in, it will swallow the whole bait. I've watched them engulf 6-inch soft plastics gone, to a pike angler that grabs a bait and it'll sandwich it between two tops and bottom jaws, an open-sided mouth. Although it does have a bucket mouth at the back, the most of a pike's mouth is completely open-sided. You hook a fish, it's got teeth, shakes its head, lets it go, and it comes off.
Yeah.
Whereas a bucket mouth, like a vacuum feeder, which has got a full mouth, swallows a hole, closes its mouth around it, So, and adapting your techniques to how you strike or how you wind into it, the rig methods, whether you're circle hooks or open hooks, whether it be lure or, being able to, especially in a drift, in that sort of depth, to the adjusting your methods to help that work. Because the fine details, the difference between catching and not catching,
Yeah. And
because you could easily get bite and just wind that out.
Yeah, no one wants to have a bite and then to not have a fish on the end. It's like quite a deflating thing.
That happened to me the other week, the last weekend when we were down on Unleashed. I had two where it just hooped over. I was trying to get a big rat, and I was like that, and then it just fucking went.
And that was on slow jig.
That was on slow jig. That was pitching, yeah.
And that happens an awful lot. And
do you think that's where they grab the actual lure and the assist hooks don't go in? They've just grabbed the bottom of it.
Yeah, exactly that. Exactly that. And the thing is you're playing a risky game if you want to put a bottom set of assists or even a single hook on a split ring at the bottom. That's what I would do in
Just
that
a treble
scenario. But then you end up losing a jig.
I'd done 70 quid's worth of lures down in Newlyn on Saturday.
Yeah, it's quite... Well, that was your first day really slow jigging.
Great fun.
Wasn't it?
Yeah, because I got the rodding reel. I'm supposed to be fishing all the time, but with all the things that I'm involved with in fishing, I never actually go bloody fishing. Mm-hmm. So that was my first time breaking it out. I had a load of the Wild Sea Boys, like the 200 gram stuff.
Fish nugs.
Yeah, the fish nugs, the wreck rat. And I had them like 150, 200 grams. And I thought they were going to be too heavy for where we were fishing. But I tried one of those smaller ones. I got some off of Kieran while we were there. They were like...
flaying out.
Going all over the place. You couldn't get any like resistance back for it. I went back to 200 gram again. You can feel where you are all the time, but you are playing. You're trying to feel it down to the deck. And then as soon as it hits the deck, you've got to engage and quickly wind it back up again. And
that is it's a good skill to actually learn, because normally we'll just chuck a lead down and bonk, it's on the floor.
And because the trace is coming down behind it, you've got time to bring it back up again before...
Yeah.
Before, like, if you're going for your standard sort of like bassing or wreck rig, I suppose, like on a boom, lead, whatever it is, 8-foot trace out the side, that lead hits first and the trace is still coming down behind it. Yeah. So you get time to bring it back up. Whereas that 200 grams just goes down, you feel the dink, and you're...
I've always found it fascinating the way that different style anglers approach the same sort of fishing from different backgrounds. Like I say, you've got your bait anglers. I come from a lure background, and how a lure angler approaches a method to how a bait angler approaches a method. It's the same end goal, but you can be complete polar opposites approaching the same subject.
There's two different lure styles going on that day on Unleashed. There's the guys fishing with booms and traces, and there's us fishing with...
slow blats.
Yeah, just jig straight down.
Like, or what do we call it? A flying collar. So you'd have your... or not a flying collar, it's a Portland rig.
Yeah, there's
a three-way swivel and a line.
That's my go-to for bass. Yeah. Three-way swivel, lead on the bottom, big trace, live bait, drift. So if you're not, is turbot going to be always your go-to if you're going to go out on the boat, or is that just a purely seasonal thing? And then
no, it's literally.
Is that what? Sorry, should I word it better? Is that one of your favourite bits to do? Or are you just as happy if you're going to jump out and go jigging?
I'm happy doing anything really. It's just fishing for me is a pastime. I wave at walls for a living.
Wave at walls out. Yeah, that has had me in stitches so many times. I told Aaron today about waving at walls. Said it'd be a brilliant name for the plastering company. Yeah.
And I work hard and graft hard, and I look forward to them snippets of periods of time that I can get out fishing. And if the weather plays ball, so for instance tomorrow it's looking really good, and the tides look right for that type of discipline, I'll do that. Yeah. Whereas if we were on a different type of conditions or different part of the year, then I'd focus on something else. Like I wouldn't go out fishing for turbot sort of mid-winter. Although we had a first turbot last year in January.
Did you say it was because the water's warmer out there? Is that?
I don't know. No, it was quite a funny one. We hunted in different places.
Were you targeting a turbot though? Yeah. Okay, cool. Yeah.
And me and Jace had this target on, and we did a session over the back of the Isle of Wight, and we were testing out banks that we'd found on Navionics that I don't think anyone had fished for the turbot, and we struck gold with that. It was great. We went to 2 marks and hit turbot on both, which was just like it was an exciting thing to actually...
I think that's super rewarding, isn't it? I can relate that to some of the fishing that I've done. I really like the whole... I mean, I live on Google Earth and all these sort of things, and I figure my own shit out, and I'm doing my own thing. So when you, like you said, you've gone on Navionics, you found some spots that you like the look of, some topography that you like, and you've gone and applied your knowledge and methods to that, and it's works to an extent, I think there's nothing more rewarding as an angler, and I get such a buzz out of being able to do that. You know, I think that's great. So
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. You know, anyone can go to a beach or on a boat and chuck any old bait out and any old hook and expect to catch a fish, and they will catch a fish. But after doing the sport for so many years, you can make the sport more interesting. One, with lighter gear. Two, with actually nominating fish before you catch them, or dedicating that session to catch a fish. And then when that does happen, it's far more rewarding than just going out on a basis of, anything could happen.
I think the fishing light part is something that I love. Always fish lighter if you can. The sport side of it is just a lot. I was watching some of the guys on the boat. Vince, he had like his shore rod on there.
Yeah.
In that thing, it was like a broom handle. You might as well have had one of those rods there.
That rod is a very, very good boat rod. Probably wasn't suitable for what he was doing. But
still caught loads.
Yes,
he still caught loads.
But it's not the Vasellis. Tibertini.
Word of the day, Tibertini.
And they get different tips and so on, and they are like the pinnacle of certain bait fishing off a boat type of rod. So, for instance, if you're up tiding or if you're drifting the banks, but they tend to be a bit longer.
It was a big old thing, wasn't it?
So, like an uptider is 9.6.
Sort of bent from the last third when he had a fish. The rest of it was just.
And that's what that rod's designed to do. Is it's got all the power at the 2/3 of the rod, and the tip is everything on it. You pay your money for that tip, and that is really important. For instance, like I was saying with fishing the banks, you want a soft tip rod to stop the lead loading up and pinging back out. Sorry.
Love a phone call,
sacrilege.
Love a phone call.
Dom, we are going fishing. I'm just going to call you back in a minute. 2 secs.
International. Right in the middle of a podcast. Loves it. See, even when we're talking about fishing, we've got people ringing in about fishing.
Yeah, we're just. You
can't go wrong.
So sorry about that. It was just.
It's about fishing, mate. I'll let you off.
Yeah.
If it was anything else, you'd have been out the door. It was about fishing. It's fine.
Yeah.
Recording fishing, calls about fishing.
Well, this is what's great about the lifestyle that we have down in this area, Tor Bay. We've got the likes of yourselves, and we've got many other people in a similar boat, literally. So we've got a group of guys with different boats, and Dom's one of them. Simon from Hooks is another. And
Dom was who we went pollocking with.
That's right.
Yeah. That was a good day, that was.
Yeah. So he's got a Barracuda 8, and
it's a lovely boat.
He's just turned it into like this supercharged monster.
What's he got on the back of that? Is it twin 2s or twin 3s?
Twin 200s, but for that.
Because he wasn't happy with the 150s and he didn't like the colour, so he swapped them for the white Yamahas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Man after my own heart, they're right there.
The Yamaha 200 is probably the best outboard you could buy for sort of our size boats that we're getting at the moment. So
he put two.
The fuel efficiency on them is superb. So he put 2 on the back.
It's a lovely boat. Yeah. It is a lovely.
That's a good point to raise, actually. You said about fuel efficiency there. So you've already touched on your privateer. The cost. You already said you work hard. You like to travel when you can, when the weather's right, the tides are right. So let's, because again, I guess people have like a really romantic idea. Oh, I'm going to get a fucking boat and I'm going to go out fishing every weekend. The upkeep of it. So this is the prime example of talking to someone that isn't, say, necessarily working for a big brand or anything like that. That is a privateer angler that has a boat. So let's talk about. I mean, you said you've just travelled all the way up there, whether you're trailer and baits or it's local, you're boating out. Yeah. So the cost of this, it's not cheap, is it? It can be quite a tasty little number.
It can be limiting.
Yeah.
As you found out with your boat before.
The big boat, which is now gone.
Yeah.
Lovely boat.
And it can actually spoil the hobby as well, because it could be a lovely day and you want to get out to a certain area which you want to target a certain fish. But when you think of it, when you put the fuel and all the other aspects together, it can be... Actually, is it worth doing that hunt today?
It gets you nailed it there. It actually gets a bit depressing, like you just said. When I was going out in my big boat and targeting certain fish, if we had to have a real good steam, like down towards the Eddystone or a bit further out towards the Buoy, I'm doing 1,500 quid's worth of fuel.
Yeah.
And that's just depressing.
I guess it goes back to what we spoke previously: the effort versus the reward at the end of it. I mean, when it financially, I mean that's it's a big fucking kick.
So, what I would say is that, let's say, I wouldn't put it in a category with a boat annual. I would say that I would put it into sort of a 5 or 10 year plan, and the biggest expense with the boat is actually going to be running it and maintaining it.
Mooring it.
And the time, and the mooring, and the time it takes to do that. So with my boat, I keep it immaculate, and I get told off by certain friends as well that we'll turn up on the boat or to go on the boat, and I'll do a full clean before we go out. And they're looking at me, scratching their heads. And the reason that I would do that is that, let's say that I haven't cleaned it for a week or two, let's say, and there's bits of seagull.
Use the word shit.
You can swear, mate. You can swear, mate.
Yeah, we're not crap all over it.
That stuff stains into your gel coat more than anything else. It's like acid, that stuff, isn't it? It's brutal.
Yeah, but you've got the certain things like, if you've got a clean boat, or if you have cleaned the boat, you'll notice things that could have gone wrong, or certain things that need attention. Now, so before going out, I'll always make sure that that boat is immaculate, and then before I get off it at the end of the day, that boat is again immaculate.
Yeah.
So there's the time aspect as well. So mooring costs can be up to £3,000 a year.
Well, my little boat.
Is yours in the water 12 months of the year, or do you take it out? No.
It comes out for maybe a week at the push, and that'll probably happen every two years, just to dry out the gel coat.
Clean the bottom,
and anti-foul service, and any other things that you've got to do, like some of my rod rests at the back. I sat on one, so they've got 4 rod rests at the back, not to fish out of, but just to put rods in while we're going along, keeps all the salt off them. But I sat on the transom on the boat, because I've got a door that goes out to a swim platform, and I sat and it twisted one of the rod rests off. So that's in the van now to go and get fixed. It's a constant thing.
There's always something with a boat.
There is.
Something always breaks. You park your boat up on Saturday, you go back down Sunday morning, go to start something, it won't start.
Yeah.
And you've had it serviced 3 months ago, or this won't come on, or there's...
And it could be something simple, like you've left the batteries on, which the autopilot system's still running, and while you sat there. But so going for expense wise, I would say that if you're purchasing a boat, it really is a case of spend what you can to get a good, reliable, and safe boat, but always make sure that you know what you're going to spend to do what you want to do on the boat, because there's no point just sat there not being used, and that's probably the worst thing for a
boats don't like sitting.
Vessel. Sat doing nothing. So expense wise, let's say you buy a boat that is X, and through the year you might spend that X again, depending on how much you go out.
Yeah.
Whereas then, if you've got a trailer boat, then it's sat on your drive, and you, like the guys with the Warriors and so on.
Yeah, you 165, you 175s, your Alaska 500s, those sorts of things.
You're into a bit of a different kettle of fish there, where the expense for them isn't as much as something that's sat on a pontoon all the time. Plus, it's normally immaculate because it's sat on the drive.
They can just clean it when they want, do bits and pieces.
And plus, you're looking at probably a 60 to 80 horsepower. So then you're into a fuel burn of probably maximum 20 litres an hour.
See, that's where my little boat's really good. So I've got a Wellcraft 22 Coastal with a 200 Honda on the back and sat it like 25 to 27 knots. I'm doing about 17 litres an hour.
That's really
It's
good.
really, really good.
That really is good.
But they get me on the mooring because my mooring down where it is 4,500 a year. But we can do a full day's fishing on that. 2 of us on there, full day's fishing. 80 quid, something like that.
Yeah.
And that's what you want to be sort of looking at, unless you've got mega money. But if 80 quid between 2 or 3, it's a nice day out, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a
Especially if you bring some fish home for the table as well. It makes it a much more... All of a sudden, you're not looking at that going, I should have just gone to Sainsbury's and bought it off the counter.
yeah.
It becomes a worthwhile thing. When you were talking about maintenance, I had it wrapping around in my head. There's that video of you where you're steaming out across the bay, heading for Berry Head, head on for Berry Head.
Yeah.
And he's recording himself outside the wheelhouse, and he goes to get in his door, and the door shut itself, and he can't get back in the wheelhouse of the boat. You've had to go in through the window to unlock it.
Touch wood. It hasn't. That's only happened twice, but I've been stationary, and I mentioned that on one of the videos because I was going along. It was on autopilot. I shouldn't really left the helm.
Everybody does though.
It was one of them glass, lovely mornings. So mirror glass. I think we had the cruise ships in the bay and stuff like that at that time, and I set autopilot on and going that way, and I got out, and the door just slides across to shut if I don't put the pins in, and if it goes across quite hard, the latch just locks it, just flips down. So one of the things I'll always do is before going out, I'll always open a window, just in case.
Just in case,
It's normally on the side where the key is. I can just, but that hasn't happened. But it
did make me chuckle. It did make me chuckle. You can see the panic in your face. Like, door won't open, door won't open. Yeah, in I go. Yeah, that made me giggle. So, if a lot. So if you're fishing seasonal, then pollocking winter.
Yeah,
love it. What's your go-to with that? Are you going to be down there on booms in lures, or are you going to be down there on your jigging?
I will always get a slow jig out first, because it's just like I was saying. If you can go down in size and go lighter, so you've seen the rod I use.
Yeah.
It's like a 40 or 60 gram jig
Bends
rod.
tip to butt, doesn't it?
And
Are you using full dedicated slow pitch rods and reels? Yeah.
it's a major craft. Sol Para. It's the cheapest. The cheapest you can get really in the major craft range. But this thing just hoops over, and I've had up to £30 cod and ling and all sorts on it.
I've really, obviously coming from a lure background, I've really enjoyed over the 10 years plus now when it first came on the scene. The look on people's faces when they saw these noodle rods come out, and people were like, you'll never... That they compared it to traditional European-style boat rods.
Yeah.
I'm like, what are you doing? And it's such a devastating method. But those rods, you can really give them some stick. I remember some of the brands we used to get in, like Hearty Rise, things like that. They were, you go in pollocking, and we out fasting and things like that.
Have you got them on that pollock video you've done? Is that you slow pitching?
But that's not slow jigging. The reason that day is the tide was like 3 knots.
So you just couldn't get down.
Big tide, and the jigging.
How deep were you fishing then?
It's about 70 metres there, on a certain wreck. But that day it was working, or it wasn't working. We went out 5 or 6 wrecks on the way out, and nothing was there. Nothing was really happening until we found one.
Could you call up his YouTube, please, Aaron?
We found one wreck which was holding some pretty monstrous pollock.
They were big, weren't they?
So I flying ledger, or a 3-way swivel, little ball weight or 10-ounce ball weight, probably a metre and a half of fluorocarbon, and just to a small sidewinder lure.
Yeah.
And these fish, you get to the bottom, you do 2 winds, pause.
That one, 59 minutes.
And I caught one that was.
Here's the boat.
Caught one that I'd measured.
There's Gadget.
Yeah, there's Gadget.
Beautiful.
Spin through a little bit, mate. Just click along until we find some of these donkeys.
It'll be around here, I think. Yeah.
Oh, perfect. It's like, so that's your I've got the same rod as you. Is that
Exactly, yeah.
That's the light one, isn't it? Though, is that the 8
I'm not
pound?
sure. I've got from £6, £8, £10, £20, 20 to 30 or whatever.
I've got the 12 to 20. It's quite a stiff rod.
Yeah, the 12 to 20 is it's a great all rounder. I'm not sure what rod this is, but
You can see how much you're pulling on that.
these were big fish that day. I weighed one, and it was £16, and then I caught a bigger one after it, and I was shocked when it didn't fit in the net.
They're great fun, aren't they?
And you could tell when you get a big pollock, 'cause they tend to, because they've blown the bigger ones, they do this sort of turtle on the surface, and then when it did that in front of me, I thought, oh, geez.
Because Dom says he gauges the weight by the amount of times it dives. Dives once, it's £10. Dives twice, it's...
Yeah,
I can't remember the exact quote, because that's Dom in the background, isn't it?
That's right, yeah.
You can see you absolutely pulling on that. So are you fishing braid there?
Yep, yeah.
That's
so
just braid down to a three-way swivel.
Three-way swivel and, yeah.
Fluoro leader.
Yeah, £25 fluoro. But the reel that I was using there, it was actually for taupe, so it's actually a bit too much. What am I using?
Torum 16, isn't it?
No, there's the Salty Eagle.
Oh, is it Salty Eagle? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, it's a Salty Eagle.
Oh, that's a donkey, isn't it? Is that the one it doesn't go in the net? Picked it perfect.
I don't know. It could be the 16. I don't know. It could be the one that's.
That's a big fish.
Yeah.
Guys.
Yeah, it's a good day out, that. Really
So
was.
where was this? Straight out of where we are? Or did you actually steamed a bit?
directly east. Yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I really enjoy that. I mean, it's
Yeah. So you'll find the fish normally past the 20-mile marker
Right, okay.
on certain wrecks.
It's just that because all the inshore stuff's been battered so much.
There is a point I think is further up, which no, it's back there then, where I hold the 16-pounder, and then I hold whatever the other one was. I think it's close to 20. But I pick one up and I go, well, that's big fish, and then I pick the other one up. Yeah. Yeah, that one was a bit of a monster.
You can see the barotrauma on them where they're just all bubbled up and blown. There's nothing going back there, is it? I remember your locker at the end. It was just.
I don't tend to. I took 6 fish that day, but I did have people comment saying that, you know, am I commercial? Should I be taking all that amount? But if you've done 30 miles out and you're taking 5 or 6 fish, that's all right. I filled the freezer, but I also, most of the time, I'll give a lot of fish to the food banks. There's a guy in Paynton that sort of makes a lot of meals for the food banks.
Fair play.
And that does help. So at least it's going to a good
fair play.
You know.
So we touched on this when me and you were talking about the social media and the negative side of things. When you're putting stuff up, like you're just putting your videos up, just there's a way of sharing stuff. There's no, you're not there to go, look at me, here's the tactics, this is what I'm doing. You're literally just sharing some knowledge. When you get people in there putting their 2 pence worth in, how do you deal with that? Does it bother you? Do you ignore it? Do you tell them to fuck off?
It can really knock you. Yeah. Whereas the reason I put things on YouTube is because I've got hard drives all over the place, and there's certain things that I want to save and one to actually show my mates. I'm not there to actually do the big I am or anything like that. It's just I've had a fantastic time, guys. Look at this.
What made you choose to have a YouTube channel? Was there a moment where you thought, I'm gonna create a YouTube channel, or did it just happen?
I think I was in Norway, and I thought I was on a family holiday, and I was just going out fishing on my own on a little tinny boat in the middle of winter. So we had an hour of sunlight in the day, and I was fishing all day. But I was catching some really nice fish, and I was having a really good time. And
Just cod fishing, or was just like
cod fishing.
Yeah.
And I just started to put the phone out and videoing it because it was a good experience, a great adventure, especially to do it on your own.
It's a good idea because there's a lot of people that don't do what we do, and they've got no idea what it's actually like out there.
But in no way am I looking to try and to say, look how good I am, or whatever it may come across.
You were just sharing your experiences.
Exactly.
You know,
You actually tell people, don't subscribe to me.
Yeah,
don't like my stuff.
don't like my
He
stuff,
says it on the
don't
video. He's like,
subscribe.
don't subscribe, don't like.
It's more for like close mates. I can say, hey guys, let's be fishing really well, or this is what happened last year. Do you fancy coming out? It's pollock time, or whatever.
That's really good because there are a lot of people that go out and they chase Facebook fame, all that sort of stuff. So just going out there and sharing your story and and enjoying it and having it as a reference for yourself, not only for yourself but your friends. I mean, that's a great way to do it. And it is a refreshing thing to hear and see because there's so much of it forced on you nowadays. I mean, it's the growth of social media, mobile phones. It's so accessible, isn't it?
So everybody.
That's really cool.
Yeah, guys. Sorry to stop you.
Hit me.
I've gone through that.
Yeah.
And I've been working all day, but I just need to use the loo.
Yeah, of course you can.
Let's take a technical break. Are we in the middle of
in the middle of like.
Well, this is the joy of a podcast.
Yeah.
You can do what the fuck you want.
Yeah.
We might even leave the bit in the middle. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
might as
just.
well.
Yeah. It's just. Right. You ready?
Yeah.
Right. Dave's back from his toilet break.
Yeah.
So one of the things, because you tried to get me up here for this trip, the skate fishing. You invited me up to Scotland. It was just before Christmas.
Yeah.
I can't say unfortunately because that sounds terrible. I've got two young kids. My time between work and the family to come and jump up, it's beautiful. Like I would love to come and do this. I just didn't have the time.
So I've always fancied doing.
You took Simon with you, didn't you? Was this trip or was this another trip?
This is every year on my birthday. I will go up on my.
Are you
own.
sat on that rod to use his leverage?
Yes.
So what rod is that there?
That's not cheap, but it's the Century Fireblade, the first one. The one that came out a couple of years ago, and it got rebuilt, or the two of them got rebuilt by a guy in Wales called.
Tuna Gear bottle in the background, Dave. I love it.
That's where the milk goes.
Is that where the milk goes?
So yeah, the rods I'm using are the Century Fireblades, Spin Fisher 7,500 reels with 80 or 100 pound braid and a 100 pound top shot.
Yeah. How much top shot do you have on there?
2 rod lengths, 3 rod lengths.
Right, okay.
One of the main things with that is you're doing a 100 pound braid to a 100 pound mono, and that FG knot is quite a considerable thing to get through the eyes.
Do like a good FG knot.
Yeah. So the gear is quite important. You really need to trust your knots and so on. And when the rods got rebuilt by a guy in Wales called MAR Custom Rods, Mike, I asked him to put thicker or bigger eyes on the tips, the 2 eyes, so they don't reduce right down. So at least when you're fishing on a beach and you've got weed and the leader knot gets stuck.
Right, okay,
That doesn't happen. You can wind your fish through the shore dump. The amount of fish I've lost with that situation on Chesil, it's in the shore dump, and you're playing gymnastics. You've got the rod at like 180 degrees.
Is that a homemade gripper there?
No, it's just a 10 ounce. It could be a homemade. I think I got them off a guy called Ross. So the rig is really simple. It's basically an up and over, which is like a running ledger when it's out. 200 pound line on the rig.
Right, okay.
I'm pretty fussy with the line I use, so I'll use Momoy.
Good stuff, isn't it?
Every single other line I've used sort of breaks 200, and then you start going 300-pound Rovex and stuff, and then nothing casts well. This location is really well-known, Mark, but this is the only place where I'll film skate fishing up there.
Is that because it's well known, or just?
Yeah, it's a lot of the places up there are really protected by the locals or the skate fishermen around the UK. The worst thing to do is to sort of broadcast where you are and so on.
Yeah,
this place is so well known. But it also,
How deep is it out there? Because that lead was just dropping and dropping and dropping.
It'll take about 5 minutes for the lead to go down and settle. So when you're fishing there, you're probably casting to 100 meters, maybe a little bit more. If you find the hole, which is a certain hole there, I'm not saying where, but it's there. And if you can get the hole, it's literally like that every time at a certain point of tide.
Any bycatch, or is it you're only getting the skate there? Do you ever get much else there?
Yeah, you'll get you get big spurs, you'll get thornbacks. I've had big ling off there. But this location I'll fish in the day. It's a place where you can fish in bad weather. You can land the fish in bad weather on either side.
Can you park the van by it as well?
I'd recommend people not to. I would park it sort of up the road a little bit. There's a big open space and walk over. The main thing that they don't like is this is a login platform, and fishermen will go up there and let's say they've spent 12 hours driving there. They'll set up for the fishing, and then the loggers will come and start offloading logs or a boat will park up, and that really is the end of that session there. So there's little tips and tricks to sort of avoid that, like looking at marine traffic to see where the boat's going to come in or not. And then after a few years, you know what boat
you're looking for. Yeah.
So before when you're driving up, you can see which location's going to work or not. But what happens is the loggers come and then they'll kick you off, or it won't be fishable because there'll be a boat.
So you're not supposed to be there, but there's a bit of a blind eye turn.
No, you know, in Scotland there's a law. You can't really trespass in Scotland. You can walk anywhere as long as you look after the place. You're not littering and stuff like that. And you just want to respect the place.
Yeah, it goes without saying.
But what you don't want to do is turn up and then start effing and blinded at someone that's stopped your fishing session. There's plenty of other locations to go.
Yeah, those guys are working. You're there having fun,
Exactly,
so you've just got So when you hook that skate, does it just use its body mass to sit in the water and hold itself down, or is it? Do they do what the blondes do and try and get themselves down onto the bottom in?
They will do all sorts. So they will stick to the bottom. People think they're snagged, and they pull for a break, and then you've left a rig and however much 100-pound line hanging out of them. There's a way to fish for these fish, I think, and they're 100 years old.
Really,
A big skate is 80 to 100 years old. So it's 3 times the age of me. So you've got to have some respect. And I was really I was a bit peed off with this one, right?
It's like a broomstick the way you sat on that.
Yeah, well, coming back, I was peed off because I actually hooked this one in one of its phalluses. So as in its dangly bits. It's a big male.
Right in the dick.
In the nads.
Yeah.
So it just foul hooked it, or did it slip?
No, what a ray does is it'll sit on a bait and it'll gulp air through until that fish or bait gets to its mouth.
Yeah, have you ever seen the videos where they've got stingrays on the glass and they drop a bait in and they'll get it and they manoeuvre all around its body until it ends up in its mouth? Yeah.
They're also known to chase after fish as well, like mackerel. They'll swim up and catch a mackerel, but the way that they'll feed is if there's scraps on the floor, they'll just sit on it and gulp water through until that comes.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's an odd type of style of fishing. They can weigh upwards of 200 pounds.
Do you ever get small ones like a
Yeah,
30-pounder or so like?
This session I had, the smallest I had, not on this video, but actually, you know, like a big blonde size, and it was quite nice to see because normally you hook into these behemoths, you know, the massive giants, but it was actually nice to see.
What's that word you just used?
A behemoth.
A behemoth. Is that what you call it?
Like a monster. But so the art of fishing these is I think is the moon phase. It's
Full moon, new moon,
new moon.
new moon.
If you're travelling that distance to try and target skate, you're better off trying to get the conditions and
Everything in your favour.
Exactly.
What's that? An 11-hour drive? 12-hour drive?
Yeah, it's about 12 hours with a couple of stops. But I'll always drive through the night.
It's not even moving. I can see why people would think they're snagged. I'm watching that tip as it goes up the screen, and it's...
The reason I posted or put this one up was for a friend of mine who's been trying to get one for quite a few years. And he's hooked into them. But he always says he's snagged up or something like this. And this was just to prove a point that just persevere with it. The amount of times that I had to let this fish run, so just release all the drag until it feels that it doesn't have any pressure on it. It starts moving.
I was going to say that. So we get that quite a lot with I fish lure fishing for big ballon wrasse.
Yeah.
Shallow grounds, they'll slam themselves into a hole and you think, oh, bollocks, I've lost it. And I'll let the bail arm off. And you're quite often there. Once that fish doesn't feel you yanking its face off in the rocks, they'll quite often back out. You'll see it, you click the bail arm and you're back into them. So is that similar to when they bury themselves and you feel like you're snagged, you allow them to just, oh, hang on, and then they'll find they'll naturally try and move and you can get back on them.
Especially when they're hooked in the knackers. Because you can imagine, you know, I don't know how far out you're casting, probably 70 yards maybe, but 100 metres deep, that's a lot of line.
Yeah.
And this one...
What have you got holding your rods down there? Those rocks? What's that on the back? Well, how do you stop the rod?
It's rock on the rod rest. It's also tied down.
Right,
There's
okay.
a ring on the pier. The rod rest is tied down just because it was 50-mile-an-hour wind.
Yeah, you can tell it looks pretty brutal.
This is literally a calm period.
So what's that, you just bringing the other rod in to get out of the way?
Yeah, I was really concerned with this just before, because if that other rod went, I'd be in a pretty crappy situation.
Yeah, you're in a world.
So what are the bites? So they run you right over, or are they fairly
It could
subtle?
be anything. So it could just go nod, nothing.
Do you just lift into it at that stage, or do you do like when you ray fish and just give it a bit of line, let it do its thing?
No, you would lift in. You're using J hooks, so you've got to strike. Some of them will just take the rod and run, and this is what this did. Because it was hooked in the knackers, it just kept on swimming, and I didn't. The ratchet thing on the reel.
You're trying to bring it in backwards, I'm guessing, aren't you?
Definitely, but the ratchet thing on the reel wasn't working, and I think I sort of looked round. I had literally no line on the reel, and it was just going. I thought, oh, right then, and it was a good scenario. So when the fish took, I had to get line back on the reel, to then put the rod back on the rest, to then wind the other rod in, and really you need someone else.
Yeah,
to
extra
fish
pair of
with,
hands.
even to land these. If you haven't done it before, don't do it on your own. Get someone to help. You know, like I was saying, a fish care is quite important with these.
Yeah, they're
things.
going back, aren't they? It's not stuff for the table, is it? It's there to go back, like you said. It's an old fish. It's know, it's game fishing, is it? You know, it's sport fishing. It's not. It's just not moving, is it?
The theory of actually getting these up. So what happens with most people fighting a skate is they will get possibly 60-70% into the fight, bringing it, landing the fish, but they get worn out.
Yeah.
And then at that point, the fish just goes and swims away again. And then you're playing this game of getting the line back and so on. There's a difference between having the fish out there and the fish vertical. So at this location, you've got two ways of fighting it. You're dragging it along to bring it in till it's vertical, and then you've got to pump up a 100-kilogram fish. Notice how far my reel is up on the rod. This is only from my preference.
Is that a custom design? Is it how you like
I
it?
can just slide it up.
Oh, right, okay.
Slide it up.
Or is it just two wedge?
Yeah, well, when you can. Sorry, it's also taped because the amount of pressure on the reel. So tape the rod rest, or the reel seat. But in a minute, you'll see where it gets to the point where you've got a lot of purchase. So I'll sit with.
You're using it purely for leverage with a long bottom.
Exactly.
Yeah. So that's a lever point, yeah.
And you have space to actually use the reel, because I can't imagine having one of these fish with a 14-foot rod, right?
Is that what that is?
With the multiplier in your crotch,
in
yeah.
the crotch,
Yeah.
with a 3 inches,
Yeah.
or
A bit like one of those. Because I've seen people fishing before in other videos, and they're literally in full fight. This was from a boat. They're in a full fighting harness, and they're using short-butted, big game trawling rods really to have them, and absolutely they're pumping them up like 50 or 80 class reels on there,
and moving the reel up as well. If you notice the distance, you've shortened the rod, so you've got a better leverage. Yeah. So you're just doing that to help yourself.
Fast forward it down a bit, Aaron, please. Find that fish.
Yeah,
Because I'll sit here just watching it until the end.
it's about here.
It's like,
In fact, before you do that, Aaron, about here, you'll see me actually sitting on the rod. So if you just scan through here, about there, right, and you could just go to that point there. So here I've got the rod butt under my bum, and my front leg is pivoting.
oh, you're actually like you're almost
using my legs and my weight.
So you're crossing over your left leg, creating that pivot. When you're leaning back, it's creating the pivot.
So you're using that to fight the fish instead of using your arms.
Oh yeah, yeah. So
My knees wouldn't take that.
This method, you can apply so much pressure. And what?
Is that because you're using the heavy part of you to push down more than just trying to pull with your arms?
I don't think you would do an hour-long fight with your arms with that amount of pressure.
Is that what they are? You're talking about roughly an hour?
Yeah,
here we go. 56 minutes. He's still like.
And that was a hooked fish a fish that was hooked in a bad place.
So that extended the fight because it had full. You couldn't get its head around or anything like that. It's got its power to swim, and whether it's hooked in the balls or not, it still knows away from you, isn't it? To swim away, it's got full power.
And I was saying about the fish is out there, and you're bringing it in, you're dragging it, and when you get it to the vertical, you pumping it up. I've had the big ones.
There, mate, that'll do.
Yeah, I've had the big ones. You pump it up, and you just can't
Look at that.
You just can't get them up because they get to a certain point and they get above your trace and swim back down. So I've had it sort of at least 10 times up and down, and it wears you out.
Yeah, man, yeah.
So this was I was really upset to see it hooked like this. So
Do you class that as not a proper catcher? Because in carp fishing, if you foul hook something, you're not allowed to take it out of the water. You just got to slip it back and let it go. Because sometimes in the fight, you can get a hook slip and it catches them in the peck or something like that.
Yeah,
you just got to go. Oh.
Yeah, if it ever were a competition type thing, then yes. But I'm not asking for a trophy. I just wanted to tick a box here. It's my birthday, and I
Just wanted to catch a fish.
Yeah, and I caught 2 of them that day. So that was.
Because I noticed it when we were, and I've mentioned it a few times when we were out on Unleashed, when we were on the jigs, there was those assist hooks going anywhere at times. It's not always in the mouth. Matey boy on Crusader was saying that he never sees them in the mouth. They're always somewhere else. And there was a couple of lads, and you see the rod hoop over, and then I've got a good one, and it's a £2 coalfish with an assist hook for its tail, and they just go like stink, don't they?
And one of the reasons for that is that.
So you've got your gaff preset there. Is that a gaff? Would you call that?
Yeah, gaff.
And so you've already got that down on the rocks, waiting for it, ready for.
When at some point in this video, I wound in the line that the fish had taken. I put the rod on the rest and wound in the other rod.
Yeah.
And that's where I went and got everything prepared. So the gaff was out,
Yeah, so you were
gloves on. and everything else sorted. Yeah, and you'll notice here that it's only a couple of minutes, or I will never take these fish out of water really myself. I did one of the first times, but people want to do all the measurements and get this photo and so on. These aren't designed to sit flat on a rock.
No.
You can't get those. It's like a boulder field. You're not going to get anything flat on there. You're just going to hurt them, aren't you?
But people do, and they also say that they're the big 200-pounders, and then they're holding them on a rock, like I can't see someone lifting up a 200-pound fish.
Not without doing untoward damage. To
Even like 3 people trying to get, I don't know. I am a small guy, but notice that as soon as I can, I'll get that hook out. I don't normally gaff them.
You had to turn it though.
But I wouldn't be able to do anything with this.
So you're just trying to put that into its mouth just to gently turn it around?
I've not actually...
You haven't engaged the gaff?
Engaged the gaff at
You're just
all.
using it to put its head around?
I've just brought it, and just so I can reach where the hook is. Like this is what we would class as a reasonable sized male. But I think I say poor fish, sorry mate. And
what size hook are you using there?
I've started going down in size. So there's at the start of skate fishing, we used to use a big 14-0 or 12-0 bronze. And I've started to use like an 8-0.
I'm guessing it's more about the gauge of the hook in the strength of it than the size of it, isn't it?
People used to say that you have a better hooker with a bigger hook, but I've gone down in bait size. I won't, like I showed you, the bait that was shown early on in the video. It's never much bigger than the hook shank. So you've got an 8-0 and it's just at the top of the hook. So the top of the hook where the knot is a bead, and I'll just elastic to the bead.
Right, okay. Incredible creatures, aren't they?
Yeah,
They really are. And
how many trips have you done this year? You won at Christmas.
I took little Oban up last. So
Right.
Oban with his sib, but he just come up and he just wanted to skate, so it took him up just as a laugh for a weekend.
How did that trip go?
Brilliant.
Same spot, or did you go on a bit?
Same spot, because the weather was really bad. But we did go to another location as well. But Obes hit into a really big fish in the first 20 minutes. There's a couple of people have taken it. One of the most memorable guys was Shane, a friend of mine from the Ascension Islands, or St. Helena. And he brought a 5,000 style reel, or 5,000 size reel with the old Sonic black rod, which was like really questionable sort of gear for these, but he fought it so well. And that's like one of the most memorable fights on a skate I've got.
They recover well, don't they?
Yeah.
I suppose they come up so slow, it doesn't really do them too much damage.
I think they're quite a resilient fish, so they'll be at certain big deep depths, but also they'll come right shallow as well. So certain marks we're fishing 20 meters for them.
Really?
Yeah, but that's at night.
Does that make the fight a lot less, or do they just go out at that stage?
You don't get the vertical aspect of that fight. You'll just be dragging it around. It's more of a swim around. They're swimming around the place.
Could you call up Dave's playlist that he gave us, please? Because this will be a good time to look at that. When you were recently in
La
Gomera, you had a manta. Was it
the
stingray? The stingray.
Yeah, the stingray. We'd caught a few of these.
Because this is just after a day's fishing out on the charter boat.
Yeah.
You've just come in. You were telling me the story. Grabbed a few bits and walked off down like the breakwater sort of thing, didn't you?
Yeah. So it's literally just the marina wall, and we've been catching.
Pull up the Can you see them in a category?
I think it'll be in. If you're looking at the card. That's amberjack.
We'll come back to that one.
That's
This one's a special one. We're going to finish on that one. This is my favourite video.
Dentex.
See the fish, mate?
There we go.
Here.
There's more coming out as well.
So this is Stingray, is it?
So the gear I'm using on this, it isn't what you would do. You'd fish stingrays off the shore. It's a 100-gram popping rod, but it's set up for P9.
We're using this for the amberjacks as well. Is that the rod you'd been using?
Yeah, and so you don't really need to cast far here.
You just like an underarm flick out, pick up the bottom of the boulders.
But this thing hands down, by far the biggest thing I've caught off the shore, and
Skip along a little bit, please, mate.
the pressure that I put this under, because
You're fully leaning back on the rocks.
yeah, and I'd been fighting the fish, and I'd rung Jace to come over because he was on the boat fueling up and doing stuff.
There's a fish. I can see the fish.
And I said, Jace, come over, bring a T-bar.
Didn't bring the T-bar.
He didn't bring the T-bar.
Look at
This
that.
thing was a bit of a monster. It was a slug.
Oh my God! What? Holy crap!
And Jason isn't a newbie on stingrays.
No. This bloke's done.
Lots.
Yeah, he's a legit angler.
Unbelievable.
I met him. We went squidding off the end of
Brixham.
Yeah, off the end of Brixham.
Let me get hold of that leader, Dave.
But this was probably like, you know, when you call a fight full power, this was like ultimate, like as much as I could give it all the time.
When I've caught them abroad, they're very, very different to UK species of ray where they steam. I mean, I had them and they steamed off, and it was unreal how they went.
I think once they get that momentum behind them,
Unbelievable.
so
Dave, we're going to have to get in the water here, man.
the reel locked up maximum drag, and the only way I could control the fish from stopping accelerating and stop it building up that momentum was just grab the reel.
Yeah.
You know,
I remember we were in the Keys years ago, and Jim O'Donnell, skipper, we were out jigging for bonefish, and there was a big ass bottle green stingray in the distance, and he said, whatever you do, don't cast near that, because all you do is you're going to spook the entire bank. So make sure you cast over there, and to just show how sensitive they were. I remember casting this little bucktail jig out. That fucker heard that, swam round the boat, straight grabbed it on little spinning jig rods, and just steamrolled me. I was like, what on earth?
What sort of size do you reckon that is?
I don't know.
But it's their thickness as well. They're so deep.
Big category.
But they're so deep, people don't realise how deep they are as well, you know?
That water, I did put it up to a rock here somewhere, and the water is probably
Look at the size.
a foot and a half deep, and it was out the water.
Yeah.
And it was spraying me with water.
That's like 5 foot across that thing.
Do you want me to hold the rod and you
It was a
fill it up
lump.
with the fish? Yeah.
But it was what was the scary part with it is Jason saying, "Get your socks and shoes off and get in it," and I'm thinking, no, that's a black monster.
Just a little bit.
As
But I'm
in,
to Steve Irwin.
it's like a really old big fish that if it's going to whack you, it will. If you're on a beach and you can bring it onto the sand and control the tail, then fair enough. But
Yeah, not on breakwater like that,
not
no.
like that. You can't. And we'd already agreed that we'd just snap the hook out. Which is what I did. You'll see it here. Just went to pull it and off it goes. It was just spitting water at me here.
So when you say snap the hook off, you're snapping it at the eye and just leaving the hook in just to come out
Yeah,
of its
just
own
to snap the
accord.
knot. Yeah.
That was impressive.
But it's a good.
Cast out.
So this was Lagomar.
Nominating the fish you catch. See, this is the start of it. You've got to nominate the fish.
Look at the grin on
Then
your
catch
face.
it. Yeah.
Right in, give it some power. This is a 100-pound line. It's taken about 20 metres, 30 metres off me already.
Was that straight off the run? How long had that been in the water?
15 minutes.
Did you seen it or you just thought this is...
No, I went over. I had the rod,
I'm playing with.
2 mackerel, and my rig already rigged up, and my GoPro in my pocket. And I was going over for an hour just to see if there was a cast out. And 20 minutes later, this thing's just, there's no drag set on the reel. This thing's just going. So I thought, right, put the GoPro down, press go, and tighten up the drag, and that was that moment there.
So like we said, this is Lagomaros. What boat is it?
Cutty Shark.
Who's the skipper?
Lionel or Jason.
How do they get hold of him? Shout them out here because I know you went over there.
Yeah,
Because they've just taken the boat over.
They've done.
It was a
one hell
UK
of a-
boat, wasn't it? Out of Plymouth.
Yeah.
Was it Plymouth?
Plymouth,
Yeah.
They've done one hell of a trip. They took the boat all the way down. They actually, I think they put it on a ship, and then they got it to Portugal, I think, and then they sailed it about 4,000 miles.
Christ.
I think. It was pretty
Up
epic.
through Gibraltar and up into the Med.
All the way across and down and over into the Canaries.
Oh, you're that side, right? Okay.
Canaries. So La Gomera is just next to Tenerife. So
Right.
you've got Gran Canaria, Tenerife, La Gomera, and it's just a small volcanic island in the middle of like deep water, and it's a big game location, but the fishing, bottom fishing, and off the shore is sort of untapped.
They just don't do it because everyone's into their game fishing over there, or
Yeah, but then they get the locals who do a lot of spear fishing, and normally you're restricted by the depth. Whereas that island, you could be 100 yards off the shore and be in like 100 meters, 200 meters of water. So with the spear fishing, they're restricted to quite inland because of the depth. Which brings us to like the Dentex and stuff like that.
is that the first video? Is that a Dentec on the Sabikis?
Yeah, that one.
Did you see that first video? So they took the boat round there, and you know him, don't you? You know Jay.
Yeah. So the actual not that one is a Dentex.
Is that the same rod and reel setup that you just
Yeah.
had?
So that was for the Stingray, the same rod, but we used it for amberjack and so. But the fish are averaging 30 to £100 here. So you need that's a Saltiga, the GT rod.
And what are you doing? Jigging here for them? or
No,
you
this is putting a bait down.
dead or live?
I think this one was dead baits. 'Cause
Right.
We were struggling with live baits.
What, to catch him or just to get him down there?
It's an art in itself.
Because of the depth of the water, to get him down that far without him just...
No, the mackerel or the herring, we would normally see all of them in the UK in 30, 40 metres.
Yeah.
Or even shallower.
Yeah.
They're just a column, one tiny column of fish in 100 metres water.
Okay.
Obviously, they're crapping themselves with all the other stuff that are around them.
Everything wants to eat them.
So there's a certain art to actually get bait, and just to get a couple of baits was really, really difficult. And we did start to get that art tapped. And what we were doing was we were trolling along with our feathers 50 to 100 yards out the back. And when you'd see the sounder go with a line of bait, bonk, release all the reels, feathers are going down, and the boat would back up to it, and you'd get maybe a handful of baits there and then. So that's Jason, and then Lionel probably popped his head around. And there we go.
So what is a Dentec? Big game
So-
fish?
No,
bream
it's a
species.
bream. It's a snapper.
Right, okay.
And I thought it was an amberjack here, but a small one, because I was catching amberjack on the jigs.
And we've hit some trophy fish this time round.
Yeah, so it's so one of the main things here is that you're at that depth of water. So a bite on the end of your rod, it is not like this. It's just a tiny subtle nod, because with that depth, the fish might be swimming 30, 40 yards all over the place, and you're not really feeling it. You're just your line is just moving.
Yeah.
So trying to pump it up to get it up.
What depth of water do you think you're in there?
That's 150 meters.
And you're not even that far from land. You can see it there in the background.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, to get that in the UK, that depth, we'd be over into Helm's Deep.
Yeah.
Deep.
Herd's deep.
Herd's Deep.
Yeah.
Or the Celtic.
Yeah, off the bottom. Yeah, you disappear off the bottom of the Scillies or something like that, aren't you?
Yeah.
You're going to do some proper distance. Because that sort of stuff, that far off, say that was start point, you're going to be in like 120, 150 foot. aren't you? Yeah,
so
yeah.
it'd be 40 meters.
Yeah, yeah.
So our bay just has rings going from the south. So you below start point would be like 50 meters, and then as you get up past Hope's Nose, it'll be 30.
Shallows up towards Exmouth and then
so
up
that's
towards.
all the bass wrecks
Yeah.
up there. So but yeah, so Dentex is a big bream, and
Very impressive fish.
they are amazing. One to see, to catch, and to eat. And we were eating a lot of these this week.
I'm guessing there's loads of them out there.
No.
There's not.
No, so we've got
You ate them all.
Lionel, the skipper of the boat at this point. He's such an experienced captain. He's worked 30 years on all the big game boats, as in all the big Vikings and multi-million contenders and all the rest of it.
Oh my God, it's a massive Dentex.
So this one was a good one. So normally they'll have a big bump on their head if it's a male. So Lionel's got so much experience, right? And
Is that blown there?
Yeah.
They blow on the way up, yeah.
100 meters. So
That's a big long trace as well you're using there.
3 meter trace of 100-pound fluoro.
Teeth on them, awesome.
Yeah, big breed.
I had them on Black Meadows in the Med.
But Lionel's done a lot, and he was pinpointing these fish on pinnacles, right? And we were going over them, and he was going, right, one's there. We'd do the same thing, drop down, back up, back the boat up,
Turn the volume down on the TV a little bit, please, mate.
back the boat up to that mark, and then he'd count down, and it was literally like that. So although we were catching these fish, really it was down to Lionel and his skippering abilities to hunt.
He can put you on the fish.
He's a very, very well-known skipper, and
That's a fucking monster, Dentex.
that-
Wow.
for a male that is a ginormous thing. And I'm putting my hand up the gill, but the strength of the mouth is crunching my hands, so I had actually not blistered but pressure points all over my hands.
So I'm guessing that's blown. That ain't going to go back anyway. Even if
No, they don't go back because they're really nice to eat.
But even
They're
if
a
you wanted
return
to, that ain't going
kitchen.
back, is it? It's.
No. You can deep drop them to put a.
Can you do
drop
what they
ring
do,
on.
like the wrasse and Deacon? Like I was watching Kieran do it.
You can.
It's one of the worst noises I've heard because I'm on the other side of the boat and psst.
Yeah.
God, look at those front.
Some of the
teeth.
smaller ones we had in the Med with the piercing electric blues on that pink flesh are just stunning. You can see a little bit in the fins there, but I mean, some of the colours of those smaller ones. I caught them on Black Minnows in the Med there, and just insane sport. And like you said, the force in their gobs. I mean, you couldn't get them open when you want to. If they didn't want to open its mouth, you weren't getting that open.
No, you wouldn't. No.
How long were you out there for?
10 days. 10 days, and we did a couple of days on the boat. Weather was really bad, but we're in the lee of the land here, so the wind is northerly, so we're on the south of the island, and we're just hugging in. The fishing's good there. There wasn't any big game happening at that point. The tuna weren't really showing up, so we just emphasised on the bottom fishing really.
What tuna have they got over there? Talking like
Big eye, yellowfin, I think.
Yeah.
When they've got the bluefin in, which are now, they're
The monsters.
absolute barrels. Like
Granders.
People are fishing for these things, and some of them want to do stand up and stuff, and they're ending up with black legs and stuff like this.
Is that the photo you showed me of that was Jace, wasn't it?
But he
He looked like he'd been battered with a baseball bat around his legs. It was that black.
And they got the fish in, and they released it, and it was fine. But people don't realise that, when you're into a big fish like that, the difference is that it's in deep water. So the
Skip to the next one, please, mate.
the actual punishment.
Yeah.
Next one.
There's one with the
Keep going. We're going to finish
Yeah,
on that
this
one.
one here.
This one here. Look at that rod bend.
the story behind this. This is the fourth one.
And this is Amberjack.
They're probably
Look at the grin on his face.
The hardest fighting fish I've experienced, hands down.
Is that the same rod and reel setup
Yep.
that you've been using?
Yeah, for the Stingray, for the... Yeah. Same setup, but a live bait. They will only take a live bait, not a dead bait.
See the videos of them in the States of them, it's just like, Jesus Christ.
When you're up there at sort of 40 kilogram things, what happens is that, I was explaining the nod. It's very subtle. At that point, that fish is ramming itself into rocks to try and get rid of the rig out of your mouth.
What braid have you got on there?
£100. It's as much drag as I can get on that reel. And you notice
Just tighten down.
that I'm actually having to hold the reel as well at certain points to try and get it up. So what I'm doing here is trying to get this up into what we'd call blue water, getting it out of the rocks, and each time I'm getting it up, straight back down.
Yeah.
To the point where Mark was helping me get the rod into the rest again, and then it just pinged out again.
Yeah.
It's just
Are they backing up on it there, or is that just the rough weather?
we are backing up onto it.
Proper marlin style.
Yeah.
There's something else. You watch the videos of the boys in the States getting them, and it's just absolute madness, the power they've got.
So, as you can see, I was bullying it up and straight back down.
Yeah.
It's just trying to get rid of this rig, which I lost a couple before, and at this point...
Snapped you off.
I've just seen red, and I said, well, this one is coming in.
Do you think you let them have a little bit too much? You gave them a bit too much, let them run a bit too much, and that's where they had you off instead of really bullying them?
Definitely, but until you get snapped off a few times, or...
Are you getting snapped off on the pinnacles down there and stuff like that as they're running you through the rough ground?
Yeah, they were like there's little canyons and stuff like that. They're hitting them, and but it's really important to get these fish back into the water. So when they come up, right, you've probably got less than a minute, and you need to get them back in the water. You can't eat them. They actually, over a certain weight, they get a disease.
Saratoga, isn't it? Is it Saratoga?
It could be, yeah.
Yeah. Where they pick, it's the bait fish they eating stuff off the ground, which then is poisoning their flesh, which makes them over a certain weight bad for you. Yeah, Saratoga toxins or whatever it is. And it's to do with what they're eating. Yeah.
So that must be it.
Yeah.
So we want to just make sure that these fish go back. So when they are,
Because they're just useless. Otherwise, it is literally just a fighting fish.
And the reason they're there is because people don't fish for them for food. They can't. So it's really imperative to get that fish in, unhook, do a photo, straight back in, and then they go. Sometimes if you wanted to get a fish back down this size, you're not talking about a pound lead to try and get it down. You're talking of like 5-10 kilograms.
So they don't blow on the way up, but they just don't last on the surface. They've just got to get unhooked, let them go.
Down.
And they will do that themselves then. They'll just kick themselves back down.
As long as
Are you canning them back in then?
A complete torpedo. But this was it was a completely new thing for me, and what an eye opener. So, out on a Merta sport fishing, run by Mark. He's got Cutty Shark out there. These boys are on the ball. They know what.
So did this? You were saying earlier on the weather was shit. Was this an afterthought because you couldn't get to what you wanted to do, then you stumbled on this, or was the AJ something that you wanted specifically to target?
Yeah, two things. Pargo, which is the Dentex, and AJ's was a target.
Was what you wanted to hit.
Yeah, went out to fish for. Well, I went out there to see my mate Jace, just to spend a bit of time, in a bit of a downtime. We were doing a bit of fishing off the shore, as you saw, and especially at the night. And we did a couple of trips out on the boat, and fantastic experience, absolutely fantastic. The guys, it's really good to be amongst people like that. It's not normal to be going out enjoying yourself fishing and have that much experience.
Yeah, of course,
around you. You know, even down to things like Lionel the skipper, is shouting down to us before we're dropping in. He's going, doubles, earrings. And we're looking at him. And then we go, all right, double hook. So we put a Charlie Brown through a live bait. So Charlie Brown is like a tuna hook, which is on a swivel. And the hookup rate is like 10 out of 10.
Is that because of the way the hook spins on that switch? Yeah. God, look at that.
Yeah, they're big fish.
Super impressive.
But it's not something to do all day, though. You wouldn't want to go
Yeah,
out
you'd be
and
knackered.
catch like 5 of these. One is probably not good for the fish, but you do 1 or 2 and you've ticked the box.
Yeah.
He's brave not having gloves on.
Jason's a hard man. The fish this guy has had is unbelievable. So gaff him, make the fish safe, open the door, get it in, unhook it, hold it for a photo, and bosh.
Oh, top opening door.
I was quite pleased with quick hands.
That was actually pretty good, mate. If you dance as well as that moves, mate, you'll be fine.
Notice at the moment how the weather as well. It's not camera footage. Never really does it justice, but that is rough.
Yeah, there's a
Big
swell on
fish as well.
Yeah, it's massive.
So what family are they?
I'm not sure.
It's not tuna.
No, I think we'd call it round fish.
Right, okay. God, it is a nice boat, isn't it?
Yeah. It's a Bertram, and it's purely designed for big game. So when you're side
It's got the tower, it's got the boat, it's got the fighting chair, yeah.
and all the fighting chair. He's got Mark's outlaid this in a way that it's got everything you need for big game fishing.
Yeah.
But it's a trolling boat, so to do side on like this, struggling to pick it up. Look.
Yeah. Awesome.
But normally, you're holding the camera or holding the fish to the camera. I didn't realise what was going on here.
That is a specimen-sized fish for those then.
Well, yeah. I don't think you see many fish around 40 kilogram on an. You'll see a lot of like your 20s and stuff like that. But this is an interesting one, isn't it?
Oh, what happened to that end bit where he torpedoed it back? Was that just the end of the film?
No. That could be on a different video. I think I've got photos of it, but I'm not sure if that is.
So we'll save that one for later on then. So we've gone on a bit of like fishing you do that you've gone abroad. So let's take you through like a typical season. Now you're back home. Now the seasons are picking up in the UK. Moving forward now, what sort of things in the UK are you looking at doing now?
Well, now
do you have like your goals? What's your goals this year, really?
Yeah, well, we're in the start of spring, aren't we? So soon the weather will start getting better because we've had a terrible.
It's been rough since October, isn't it?
Yeah. So, for instance, I like going out bassing. I like to try and hunt cod in between the wrecks. Obviously the turbot. A lot of shore fishing. So, I actually like going and sitting on the beach on my own in the middle of nowhere, or on a rock.
We could probably do a whole podcast on your shore fishing. To be honest, it's because yeah.
And all it is a case of all I want to do is go away, turn off the phone.
Yeah. I can
switch off.
Totally relate to that. Yeah.
I take my little camp stove and stuff. And I make cheese toasties or chili in a can with cheese toasties and stuff like that. Fresh coffee, load of food. And if I catch a fish, even if it's a dogfish, it's a bonus. But then I do like targeting different things off the shore. So, for instance, a little bit of toping, so that later on in the summer.
You had some nice cod from Chesil, didn't you? You lost a really nice one in that swell as you were bringing it in. I spoke to you just afterwards. You were still slightly depressed about it.
I went through Well, the cod on Chesil used to be very, very, very good fishing. So each year you would get a near double or over double fish, and this is going back like 15 years. And then since then, you've seen a decline to the point where it just didn't happen. And then the last few years, you've seen a lot of smaller cod. And I enjoy going out and doing a session to actually target a cod and get a decent one. There's one night met Jace at the beach, and it was New Year's Eve, and the weather was bad onshore, 4 metre swell. And we were fishing the rough, and it was spitting out 8-ounce leads at us.
Just literally bringing your rigs back in.
You with an onshore wind of 40 mile an hour. Actually, that night it got to about 60. So with 4 metre swell, 60 mile an hour onshore, and Jace just went after a couple of hours. Jace went, I'm done. I'm going home, and that was like 11:30, and it was like 3 minutes past midnight on New Year's Eve, and I pulled in probably a 12 pound cod. Sent him a photo, and I was like, Jace, you should have stayed. And you just, it's a bit of an art to fish Chesil in that way, because most people, well, I don't want to put it in that way, not most people, but people who would tighten down to a lead. So they cast out, tighten down, and they're looking at a rod tip bent over like this. Doesn't work in them conditions.
Need a bit of slack line on it.
We're actually walking probably 5 minutes up tide and booting it out as far as we can, which is probably 50 yards, and they're not a big bait, just a single crab presented nicely. But you've heard of uptiding, right? And we're just doing that off the beach in a strong, big tide, big swell. The line is literally buried in the shingle and so on, just leaving it. Or at a certain point in the swell, as long as there's not so much pressure from the rod tip to the weight doesn't bounce out. So what you get is a spring in the line, so a wave comes, crashes, and then the line bounces back up out of the shingle. And that's how you fish that. Whereas anyone goes there, it's too rough, they're casting straight out in front of them, they're tightening down, putting the rod in.
And it's just ripping it around.
The lead bounces, the line gets slack, buries in the shingle, and then you lose your gear. So taking most of my lifetime fishing for cod, and especially off Chesil, or South Wales or whatever, and it's the same sort of method. You're casting up tide and using that method, and all you're looking for at them type of conditions that I've just explained, what we used to look for is the rod used to fly backwards, because it used to go slack line, proper slack line. I've had it, I'm sitting in my bivvy, and the line has just hit me in the face, it's gone. And you think, right, well, something's picked the lead up then. Dunk, and you're into a good fish. But then there's the task of hooking the fish, but there's the next task of trying to get it in through
Landing it, yeah.
And I've really struggled with that over the years. So hence,
I've got a load of mates that bass fish Chesil on the lures, and the shore dump is a pain in the ass, and they've lost multiple giants where they've had our metals off there and in lumpy seas, and it's all very well hooking it and reeling it in, but once you get there, so you don't kill yourself or end up in or not lose the fish. And it's a struggle, man.
We were there one night, and I did have I call it like a 10-year fish. So we're fishing, and my line's done what I've just said, slack lined. I took a couple of guys from local here, and the line's slack lined. I've looked round, and I've wound in, and it's a big. You know the difference between a cod and an eel, and this was a big cod, and fought it, and I had it in the shore dump, and it was what I call like a gutter mouth, so it's just like open its mouth, filling up with shingle, big heavy thing, and it's stuck on where the shore dump's going in. And on Chesil, what you get, between high tide and low tide, you don't really get a difference in where you stand, because it'll have on a big rough day, or it's been rough for a while, you'll have a slope, but a big ledge.
Yeah.
And low tide, the water will be at that ledge, washing over the ledge. And at high tide, it'll be bumping up to the slope, but still drawing all the way back and curling at that ledge. So you're stuffed, really. And what I had is this fish going up and down and up and down for about 40 minutes. And I'm looking at it, and there's no way you'd get down there. And, you know, so didn't catch it and land it, but I saw it, and that was enough for me. But it was when the line eventually went pink, I was just like, oh. And you could hear it, the other two guys as well. We're all going, you know, you hear that noise. Oh, you know, it's a hard thing after a fish like that being lost.
Yeah, man. So what would you say was your UK based? What's your favourite fish to target? If you could only go out and target one fish, one method or whatnot, what's your favourite?
Yeah, I think I've been spoilt a bit, really, with that, because it's such a mixture, and it all depends on the time of year. But I think codding on Chesil was probably my best pastime.
Yeah,
sitting on a beach at storms and so on. But I'm
Not sharking.
I'll do that 2 days in a year.
Oh, really?
That's it. It's much the same as the amberjack. So it's great to go out with a few mates. It's something you wouldn't really want to do on your own. You know, a blue shark will give you a bit of a fight. You know, they do a couple of runs and then you bring them to the boat and unhook. But there's a few targets that I actually want to hit that I haven't been able to hit yet, and we're in prime area for them, but I just haven't been able to hit into them, and that's the threshers.
Yep.
Is probably, from what close mates say, is probably the pinnacle fish to catch in the UK. One, because it's an art in catching them. And
Why are they so tricky?
well, from what I've heard, the way that the guys set their floats up, or clip the lines to the bow of the boat, to the rocking of the boat, doesn't affect the bait. The way that the bait is fluttering in the water, there's a lot that I haven't learnt with that. But coming back to the question of what would be the best fish, I really like catching bass. But over the years, that sort of, if you're over a whole shoal of bass and you're going down with a slow jig or a live bait and you catch one or two.
Has to be live baits.
Yeah.
I love live baiting for bass.
It's nice, but then, you know, you've got that ball of fish on your sounder, you're putting a bait or a jig into them and you catch them. You're not going to do that all day, are you? So that's...
I can do it all day at start. I just love coming up for another drift, down, up for another...
back.
Yeah, I'll put everything. You know what I'm like, mate. I'm soft with it. I put everything back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every so often I'll take one, just because my missus and the kids like fish. I don't like eating it. But I'll take one home and barbecue it. Stick it on the barbecue, lemon in bits and pieces, in like that one that you've caught yourself, gutted, filleted, cooked on the barbecue. Tastes amazing.
Hunter style.
Yeah. But yeah, everything really goes back. It's very rare that I come home with fish, mainly because I don't catch enough. But yeah, it's rare that I come home with stuff.
Yeah, so bass off the boat, cod off the boat, pollocking now and again. If it's, you know, wrecking, I really enjoy. But I can't really point a finger and say, you know, I really love turbot fishing and that's the best thing.
You love all of it, don't you?
It's.
I guess that's cool to have a portfolio of that, where you can dip into so many different styles, seasonal, whether.
I think it's a lifestyle.
Yeah, of course, yeah. I've always said fishing's a lifestyle, and people and that's
about it on the first.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's for me. I've always said that people that don't get it will never get it, because that lifestyle element of it. Fishing for me is not just going out and catching a fish. There's a whole different style to it, and
you nailed it with the hunter thing. Yeah. It's that last great bastion of you going out of the cave. What's in that valley over there? What am I going to go and bring back home? Down on the Scillies once, we go down there with the family, and there's over the back of Tresca, there's a place called Gimbal Point. And I go down there, and I've got a 1 to 7 gram LRF rod, and I get the little tiny Savage Gear weedless lures, and I spin for pollock. Nothing massive, but my missus said to me once, don't come back until you've got enough fish for fillets for everybody, and so your mum can make her fish pie, because she loves my mum's fish pie. And as I was walking over there, I was thinking, back in the day when people were over here, you actually had to go and catch fish to feed everybody. Well, I was all right, because I caught loads in like 2 hours, and I've come back and I found a bit of old net that's all cut to pieces, and I've cut it all down to make myself a bit of line. I've strung them all up through the gills, and I'm walking back across the island proud as punch. And that is that. Fishing is that really, whether you're whatever discipline of fishing you are doing, whether it's fly fishing or lure fishing or carp fishing or boat fishing or skate fishing or tuna fishing, whatever it is, even if it's going back, it's scratching that primeval itch, isn't it, of not doing what the average Joe is doing every single day, going out, getting near some water and actually targeting something and then catching it.
Yeah, that's been a big part of what I've done for the last couple of years is going out with that target.
So you said the Thrasher was a target this year. Was there anything else that you were like that you'd like to tick off, or?
Yeah, there's a few. There's a few. There's a few plans in store. One of them I can't really touch base on.
It's a good plan, though.
It is a good plan.
It is a good plan.
It could be the first in the UK.
Cool.
But whether that pans out,
whether
but
it happens or not.
it's writing that target on a piece of paper and
Even
going
to
it.
do it will make a bloody good story, let alone even getting amongst one.
Well, you know,
Have you applied for a recreational licence for tuna this year?
no,
Do you think you're going to have a little go?
I haven't applied. The boats.
Are you going to apply?
Well, I think if I can, it's one of them where you know it's a massive outlay for the kit to buy and all of that stuff.
when you've got a mate who's got a tuna tackle brand.
Yeah.
I'm sure he'll hook you up with some stuff.
I'm sure I could borrow.
Borrow some bits and pieces. I'm sure it can be arranged.
But you know, with that, I think that it's been a real sort of sour thing for the last couple of years, where you know you've got a lot of people wanting to do it and they haven't been able to. But it's been great to have the chart doing what they've done.
So opened it up to everybody.
And it has. It's promising, but I don't think
it's nice. It's on our doorstep though.
Oh, when you're going out,
chart,
you're seeing them every day. It's
massive buzz up. I think the chart's been really good for the economy.
Yeah.
You know, there was a question, like I fished the commercials last year. They came back to us. I don't know if it's DEFRA or the MMO, and they were one of the things they were looking at for what would now be this year was what was the economic impact for doing this fishery. And I was talking to the skipper about the boat, and I was like, on the commercial, I can't really see much of one. You know, it's maybe for the boat itself it's good, but whereas chart, it's opened it up for everybody because there's guys travelling down here to fish for them. They're staying in a local Airbnb or a local hotel. They're going down the local pub or the local Indian or the Chinese or the steakhouse. They're going into the local tackle shops while they're here maybe to pick up some other bits and pieces of kit, because I've seen quite a few, I've spoken to some guys, and they'll come down for a long weekend and they'll go tuna in Saturday, Sunday, and then they'll go out on a normal charter boat on a Monday and go and do a bit of wrecking and some mixed species stuff. And I think that's been a massive uptick.
And the thing with catch and release as well, for what they do, I think it's
as sustainable as you can get.
I think they're actually catching or recapturing fish. So something that could be dead in a market that's fetching X.
Not enough money here, but that's another story.
Whereas, you know, if that one fish is worth a lot more in the sea, which
100%. If you can recatch that fish 20, 30, 40 times, even if it's 10 times, that's 10 trips that people have come down here and spent because we are at the ass end of it down here, aren't we? For wages, for local economy, you know, for if you're not in tourism or in fishing, like commercial fishing, there's not that much.
Yeah, I mean, and I guess like you say, we're with an industry that has taken a real big hit in the last number of years. Having that option where you can inherently charge a good bit of money to take a charter out for a day to go tuna fishing.
It's a lot more money than your normal charter. It's about 800 to 1,000.
Then if they're doing it, if they're doing it rather and they're ticketed, and it opens up an entire whole range that wasn't there before. And I think, like I said, opening that up can have benefits.
We've got Matt
to
Forrester
everything,
on next. Charter skipper, more near you. He's not too far away, so we can have a proper talk to him about it on that one with the chart program. So I reckon to finish it off, because it's beer. You were supposed to be going to beer o'clock at about 6:30, and we're way past that now. You've got no chance.
That's food time.
Food time now. This is one of my favourite videos that I've seen, or you know, you haven't got to talk us through where you are, what you are, but this is.
So it started. If you pause it a minute. Oh no, I've got enough time actually. Got enough time. It started off. We saw this massive barracuda under the pontoons, and
is this at the beginning, or is it? Do you see him throw the bait in?
This is a
the beginning, is it?
Yeah, this is a dead bait.
Click it right to the.
No, it's not. It's carry on.
Okay, sorry.
So this is a dead bait. The barracuda's sniffing it, and the guy at the end of the line is a very experienced.
Look at the way he's twitching that
skipper,
bait,
and he's probably the best lineman in this side of the Atlantic. He knows a lot, and anyway, we're laughing because one, he says this hook is a piece of shit, and then the next minute we've got another.
What hook is it? Just a circle hook?
A marlin hook.
Right.
But
Okay.
he keeps breaking them. So, it goes in, and it's just one of these moments that is quite special. So the line's 200-pound line onto a bit of rope, and this is what happens. So this is what happens when you're live baiting for bass.
Yeah.
In a sort of a less extreme way. A bass
it's exactly the same.
hit that first with its side.
Yeah. You get
Bomb. Let's
go back
rewind
slightly.
that.
Yeah, just go back slightly, Aaron, please.
They are brutal. Size of that cuda.
No, it's the way you just see its mouth open.
And
Can you get rid of the bit of the port? That's it.
It gives a
mate.
kick as it's opening
watch.
its mouth and just swats it. Bam.
How cool is that? You showed me that. I was like, I'm putting that on the podcast. That is one of the best videos I've ever seen.
They are insane animals.
And the mackerel's in half, just going in the water, and then perfect circle hook placement. Dunk. Out it goes. We're all giggling like. And then
That cuda for there as well.
yeah.
Look at
What's-
the teeth on that. And back it goes.
What's funny about this is that the fish we were catching and eating, we were obviously gutting on the
Tracking everything next to them.
or not gutting because that was out to sea, but we were just filleting, taking off bits that we
So
didn't
that's
want,
pulled all the
throwing them
bait
in.
fish in, which is then pulled that in because it's around the bait fish.
But what was magical is that we chuck these heads down. You know, these Pargo heads are like this. You know, big heads with big skulls and stuff. You just chuck them down, and the next minute you just see this shadow come along, like the big stingers.
Yeah.
And they just the floor would just go black.
Crazy, isn't it?
But yeah, so it's if you want to go out to La Gomera,
Shout 'em out.
shout out. It's cutty shark or Omerta sport fishing. The guys know what they're doing. They're out there hauling in 1,000-pound tunas and stuff like that at the moment. And now marlin season's going to be soon. I think it's June, July it starts.
We were talking about this in the pub in Newlyn last week, weren't you? You said we're going to have to go out there and go and do some marlin
It's
fishing.
100 quid for return flights and like 30, 40 euros a night in like you.
Yeah, it's that massive big game vibe that you assume's going to cost you astronomical amounts of money. Actually, when you look at it,
You don't have to fly to Florida. You can fly to
it's
the Canary
actually-
Islands.
It's right there.
it's actually fairly
4 hours
achievable.
away.
Yeah.
And you know, we're talking about Scotland. You know, that costs me. That must be 200 and something pound in fuel at least to get up there and back. You know, it's 1,400 miles.
Yeah.
24 hours of driving. So it's 12 hours up, 12 hours back.
Did you fly from Exeter or Bristol? When you went?
Exeter. So it was like 20 minutes
Up to
on
the
a
airport.
plane, Bosch, there.
Crazy. They're mad at it.
But
That's amazing.
Awesome.
Dave, thank you. I really appreciate you coming in. I'm
Thank
sure
you.
we're going to get you back on to talk about some other stuff because we haven't even scratched the surface of all of your clout fishing. But
Yeah.
what I would like to see is some of your pout
clout-
fishing because Dave is actually the honorary chairman of the Pouting Association.
The Pouting Association.
Yeah, the Pouting Association. Because if you're ever going to go wrecking with him, he's the one that catches a pout.
Yeah.
Catches some big pouts, some PB
yeah,
pouts,
and
but it's
especially
impressive.
some of them spin when you're bringing them up. Yeah, they're
Yeah,
quite
spin.
good.
Yeah, you got
It's a
them.
great
Yeah.
fight.
Mate, thank you.
Been my pleasure.
Mate, really appreciate it. I shall see you soon.
Cool.
Cheers
Thanks,
for coming
guys.
Cheers,
Yeah.
buddy. Thank
Cheers.
you.
Bye.
Bang.